Your emotions and how you feel can be important to you, but they cannot supersede reality. Because the moment that they do, that is when you start to become useless to both yourself and those that depend on you. And I think this is part of the reason why you see so few people in today's world make any type of obligations to anyone outside of themselves. They might do it in spirit, they might virtue signal about caring about other people, but how much actual time do they spend giving to other people outside of themselves? How many people depend on them? How many people can count on them? Part of the reason we lost a lot of that, we lost a lot of community, we lost a lot of just awareness about how we can help each other and how people can depend on one another is because we replaced that with self. And it's not a bad thing to want better for yourself, but you need to be able to do that in things that are measurable. Can you better your health? Can you better your financial position? Can you spend more time giving to things that are outside of yourself that are also measurable? While your mental health can improve, you cannot ever find a way to measure it effectively if it's not purporting to things that are in reality. How do you know whether or not you feel better if you can't compare it to a time where you didn't feel well? When you can't compare it to a time where you can see what was going on around you and look at the things in your reality and say, this, and this are better, but this and this aren't. Otherwise, it's just about how you feel right now in today's moment. And if that is all that controls your decision making is necessarily going to be piss poor. See, we have a tendency in today's world to value feeling, to value mental health. And that term has been warped and abused, because often what people mean when they say mental health today is, how do I feel? Is what I'm about to do make me feel good, or does it at least not make me feel bad about anything? Is there any struggle? Is there any pain? And then that's what ended up happening to us. We started to conflate bad feelings with struggle and pain, and we started to tell ourselves that if anything made us feel bad at all, that it wasn't good for us. And unfortunately, that couldn't be further from the truth. And we, a lot of times, block a lot of things that are good for us because we refuse to do things that are difficult. See, just because something is hard does not mean it's not good for your mental health. To the contrary, a lot of times, the things that are best for you are going to be hard in the beginning. You don't think working out is going to be hard? You don't think financial discipline and sexual discipline are hard? Of course they are. But if you look around today, what is promoted to us the most? Sexual liberation, fornication, not caring about how much you spend, because we can always blame all of those things on someone else. Oh, well, we're not going to worry about discernment when it comes to, who we have sex with, because we have all of these things like the birth control pill. We have the gender wars. We can always blame the man or the woman or the so-and-so, completely negating the responsibility that we have in who we lay down with. We completely negate the fact that none of us are forced to make purchasing decisions just because something is close to us, just because it's convenient. Just because you have the ability to take an easy road, it doesn't mean that easy road is actually the easiest. And this is how our emotions and what feels good in the moment gets us in trouble. But have you noticed that that's what's promoted the most? Do what feels good, because it is profitable for the people who are selling it to you. One of the biggest, craziest, let's call it conspiracy theories that I have is that the mental health industry really isn't about mental health. It's about keeping you addicted to drugs. The amount of people that have signed up probably in the last couple years for therapy online, things like BetterHelp, and can now get medication without even really seeing a doctor. Why do you think those things have become so accessible? Just because out of the companies, out of the betterment of their hearts, they feel that you need those things? No. Because the more that you can be addicted to a thing, the more you'll need it and the more money you'll have to spend on it. I'm not saying that nobody needs drugs. I'm not saying that nobody needs access to cheap food. I'm not saying that nobody, could benefit from the things that are most of us find addictive, but let's not kid ourselves. The reliance on medication, the reliance on quick dopamine, the reliance on porn, the reliance on fast food, these things have not been a net benefit for society. And if you think that they are, I would ask, just look around you. The people that you know who are engaged in all those behaviors regularly, how much of their time do they spend complaining about the life that they wish they had? You see, there is a lot that you can do, contrary to popular belief. There's a lot that you can do to control your outcomes. But it also requires you to restrict your inputs. How can you possibly have a prosperous marriage if you don't practice sexual discipline? If you're not committed to the one person you said you were going to commit to? How is it possible that you can have a healthy lifestyle if you don't commit to doing the hard thing of starting your fitness journey and going to the gym? How is it possible that you can have a wealthy life if you don't practice financial discipline? If you don't decide, I'm not going to spend all of my money every single time that I desire something. You see, what we a lot of times have conflated is mental health with desire. Just because you don't get what you want, it does not mean that your mental health is at risk. And just because you do get what you want, it doesn't mean you're mentally healthy either. We have to realize that some of the best things in life are found through struggle. See, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to say, you know what, if you really want something that's worthwhile that you can get up and be proud of, you got to do a lot of hard shit. But see, that would be placing your reality in front of your emotions. And so much of the last 2 decades has been spent convincing you, the average individual, that your emotions are so important that they should dictate what your reality is. But some of you should know by now that that's not how the world works. So a lot of you are crashing out because what's up here, what they've sold you up here, doesn't match what's out there. I shouldn't have to work more than 40 hours a week. This is bad for our mental health. This is bad for families. But that's not the reality. The reality is you don't have enough money because you've been sold all the other shit. You don't make enough. The reality is you need to work more. So what are you going to do about it? I shouldn't have to do all X, Y, and Z to get a girlfriend, to get a man, But the reality is all of your relationships have been toxic. You're the common denominator. So what are you going to do about that? You think that's everybody else's fault? You think it's the world's fault? I shouldn't have to walk around and see all these advertisements for all this shit that's bad for us. They shouldn't be selling us this shit that's bad for us. But that's not the reality. The reality is these food companies couldn't give 2 shits about whether you live or die. They want your money. And you know that. So what are you going to do about it? See, no one's going to care about your life like you are going to care about it. But the only way that you can take that care and turn it into something that actually benefits you, impacts your life positively, is if you do the things that solve the problems that are right in front of you in your reality, not just that make you feel good today. Your emotions have a funny way of tricking you out of your spot. If the only thing you are focused on is, does this make me feel good? You will never get to where you say you want to be. And when you look around, you're going to notice there's a lot of people in that exact position right now. They talk a big game about what they want, but none of their actions actually map to the journey that they would need to go on to get there. So, start today and ask yourself, are you putting how you feel, the emotions, the good vibes in front of the work that's got to be done? Because if you are, if you look up in 6 months, 6 years, 60 years, and you still aren't where you want to be, there's nobody to blame but you. Accountability is a motherfucker, but it comes with a level of responsibility that makes you realize that what you get out of this is up to you. And if the only person, if the only God you serve is that of your emotional state, it's going to be a rough day, rough life. So my suggestion is get after what is real. Sit your emotions to the side for a moment and ask yourself, are my emotions doing me a favor here? Is it leading me towards something that'll be good for me long term? Or is the version of myself from 10 years from now going to look at me and shake its fucking head and say, man, that immature motherfucker led us down a path that we had to work twice as hard to recover from? Think about it. I'll talk to y'all later.